a developing story in China. Massive floods hitting Zhengzhou. That's a hub for factories that produce Apple iPhones. Authorities there said that it rained more in an hour yesterday than it does in an average month. Overnight, Apple supplier Foxconn said that its factory hasn't been affected by the flooding in the city. The company told CNBC it activated an emergency response plan for flood control measures and would continue to monitor the situation.
The rain in Zhengzhou may have eased, but floodwaters are still submerging major highways. Just one reminder of the devastating storm which struck central China earlier this week. Teams are working hard to pump and clear water from low-lying areas. The city's more than 7 million residents are struggling to resume normal life. Many neighborhoods lack access to running water. Authorities have set up temporary outdoor water stations. Li Jian says he's grateful he was safe at home when torrential rain lashed the city.
In extreme weather, it's safer to stay indoors. That's the lesson I learned. Dangerous things happen unexpectedly. People need to be more cautious. This kind of tragedy could have been avoided.
People are still coming to terms with the loss of life and loss of livelihood caused by what authorities have described as the worst storm for 1,000 years. Many businesses remain closed. Internet and phone connection is unstable. Zhengzhou's famous clock tower is frozen at 5 p.m., the time electricity was cut off during the height of the storm on Tuesday.
Getting around Zhengzhou city is still very difficult. The entire subway system remains closed with tunnels full of water. Taking a subway during the storm was extremely dangerous. Hundreds of people were trapped in carriages as flash floods quickly filled the underground system.
In keeping with Chinese tradition, offerings have been burned at the entrance to this station to honor the 12 people who died.
An image of normality turned upside down. Like a giant scrapyard, abandoned cars block a tunnel in central Zhengzhou. Roads transformed into rapidly flowing rivers, where in some areas, boat is the only way to get around. The city's inhabitants are used to typhoons, but they're still coming to terms with the scale of this week's deluge. It was the heaviest rainfall in 60 years. On Tuesday, more than 200 millimeters fell in just 1 hour. On state TV, the images have been more uplifting. Rescuers bringing young and old to safety. Some of the estimated 800,000 residents who've been displaced. The emphasis is on the positive work being done, not on those who've died.
Our teams have rushed to many places. We are carrying out tasks like blasting and flood diversion, flood fighting and rescue, as well as mass evacuations.
The underlying message, the party will protect you. On social media, though, there's anger at why local weather forecasters fail to warn residents properly. The city lies in a flood-prone area. The provincial government reportedly spent more than $8 billion building defences that were supposed to prevent disasters like this happening.
Floodwater wreaking havoc across China's Henan province, the damage visible as far as the eye can see. The army is warning one of the region's 7 stricken dams may collapse at any time, risking the lives of around 7 million people. Heavy downpours have flooded streets, stranding travelers, bringing the region to a standstill. Cars are completely submerged as residents are swept away. Underground, unmistakable panic among these passengers trapped inside a submerged subway car. Waist-deep waters rising to their shoulders. Emergency crews reportedly opening a hole in the roof, evacuating passengers one by one. This terrifying moment shows bystanders swallowed by a sinkhole, with the crowd rescuing this woman. A deafening explosion at this aluminium factory after a nearby river burst its banks. The floodwater mixed with chemicals, lighting up the night sky. The government has been upgrading its emergency response, with crews working round the clock to rescue residents inside their flooded homes and cars.
The severe flash flooding devastating parts of China, with several killed in a flooded subway system and dams and reservoirs swelling to warning levels as the region experiences some of the heaviest downpours in generations. Hundreds of thousands have already been evacuated to higher ground. Here's ABC's Britt Clennon.
Rescue efforts underway tonight. Flash floods in China's central city of Zhengzhou, killing at least 25 and displacing hundreds of thousands. This video from China State TV shows passengers in this subway car trapped, the water up to their chest.
The flood was too powerful, and people got washed away. Another person and I almost wanted to give up because we didn't have enough strength anymore. But my arm kept holding onto a rail.
At least a dozen people died in Zhengzhou's underground tunnels. More than 500 were eventually rescued. At least 7 are still missing. The fear, though, the toll from the floods may be a lot worse. Some family members outside of Zhengzhou making distressed calls on social media to find their relatives as power lines in the city went down. Heavy rains overwhelmed some of the city's flood defences, causing these apocalyptic scenes to unfold. Floodwaters cascading into this subway station. A resident seen being swept away by the water. Rescue workers putting kindergarteners into plastic tubs so they can float as they're taken to safety. The city as it is now is completely impassable. Where roads used to be are now riverbanks. The floods also causing this massive explosion in Henan province at an aluminum alloy plant. No casualties were reported.
Tonight, stunning scenes in a subway in central China. Passengers trapped inside flooded train cars, posting horrifying videos to social media. My phone will run out of power soon, she says. The water rising higher, others clinging to handles. It took hours for rescuers to reach them. A dozen people didn't make it out alive. Across the city of Zhengzhou, people were stranded. Kids floated out of a kindergarten in plastic bins. Nearly a year's worth of rain falling in just 3 days, what forecasters called a once-in-a-thousand-years event. The torrential rain has forced 100,000 people to relocate, as China's army scrambles to shore up dams now at risk of bursting.
अभी कुछ भी नहीं दिख रहा, नहीं मेरा घर दिख रहा है, नहीं मेरे लोग दिख रहे, नहीं आजू बाजू के लोग दिख रहे, कोई नहीं दिख रहा है।
कुछ भी नहीं बचा, हम कपड़ा भी नहीं बचा, खाने के लिए भी कुछ नहीं, चड्डी नहीं, नहाने के लिए 3 दिन कुछ नहीं, पेट में कुछ नहीं, ऐसे ही भूखा है।
150 के आसपास टीमें काम कर रही हैं। 3 या 4 लैंडस्लाइड में ज़्यादातर 100 से ज़्यादा मौतें हुई हैं और कुछ फ्लड से भी मौतें हुई हैं। अभी जो अल्टीमेट टोल है वो पता नहीं चलेगा, वो उसको फाइनल करने में समय लगेगा।
Calm after the chaos, but an all too familiar scene across India. It's hard for many to take in. Homes and lives destroyed. Household items are all that's left, a reminder of how relentless the annual monsoon rains have been this year. For Ankita, the pain of loss is just too much to bear.
I can't see anything here. My house, my people, my neighbors. I cannot find anyone.
Flooding and a landslide in this village in the state of Maharashtra have left people with nothing.
Yesterday we didn't have the material for cremation and it was raining heavily. We had nothing, so that's why we dug a pit and buried everyone together.
More than 100 people have been killed in just 2 days in Maharashtra. Many more are missing. There are power outages in several towns. The Indian military has already been able to help move nearly 85,000 people to safer areas.
Wading through water is the only way to and from home for these residents. But for many, home has lost all meaning.
I had 3 vehicles. All of them got submerged in flood water. They are all damaged. The furniture inside my house and outside also got damaged. I have suffered a loss of around $10,000.
A financial loss like that will have a severe impact on the daily lives of people in the city of Ratnagiri. With so many homes destroyed, these women are being forced to eat whatever they can find and sleep on whichever dry surface is left.
The floodwaters rose to between 6 and 7 meters. That's the highest it's ever risen. All the properties of the residents are destroyed. They have nothing left to eat or drink.
The unprecedented levels come after 24 hours of uninterrupted rain, which has caused the Vishishti River just north to overflow. The state chief minister is promising to do whatever it takes to help people through the disaster.
The village of Schuld in Germany looks like it's been hit by a tsunami. At least 6 houses have been completely swept away by the River Ahr. After bursting its banks, it devastated everything in its path. Some residents took refuge on their roofs to escape the deluge. Rescue workers are still searching for dozens of missing people.
Mehr wie Katastrophe. Ganz, ganz schlimm. Also seit 50 Jahren war ich in der Feuerwehr drin, haben wir sowas nicht gehabt.
Es ist nur schrecklich und wenn man das jetzt sieht, hier hinter uns haben 2 Häuser gestanden. Man sieht ja, wie viele Häuser kaputt es ist.
People from the area describe the night with horror. Water overflowing everywhere. Flood warning sirens could be heard across the region. Residents escaped however they could. A man was rescued after being trapped in this car.
Ja, ich habe sowas im Leben noch nicht erlebt. Absolut nicht erlebt, ja, dass es auf einmal so schnell geht. Damit hat ja keiner gerechnet, ja, dass das so schnell geht auf einmal. Ja. Und das ist ja ein reißender Fluss, man sieht das, es reißt ja. Ich weiß nicht, kommt von der Lände. Ne?
And the waters aren't letting up. The historic city of Bad Münsterfell has been badly damaged. Residents say it looks like it's been bombed.
Es ist überall in den Häusern Flammen, von die Brücke hinten abgestürzt, Wasser rüber, weiter runter sind sogar Häuser weggeschwommen. Also es ist Notstand wie im Zweiten Weltkrieg.
Around 135,000 people are without electricity. Angela Merkel has said she's grieving for those who've lost their lives. Dozens are known to have died in the floods, and many remain unaccounted for.
Until just a few days ago, Schult was a small, picturesque town in western Germany, nestled in a green valley. But it's precisely because of its location that it was so devastated by last week's floods, when a wall of mud carried away homes, with many buildings here now at risk of collapse. Incredibly, nobody in the village of Schult died, but many residents have lost everything, and many are still traumatized by what they've experienced.
My children said to me, "Don't cry." They were so courageous. My daughter said, "We know we're going to die. We're going to die together."
Das ist weg. Die haben nichts, gar nichts.
Everything's gone, nothing's left. I say to myself, I should be happy we're alive, that my children are alive, but my children don't have a home anymore. What will I do now? I don't know. I don't know.
A huge clean-up operation is now underway here, largely led by volunteers. Farmers from across the region have come here with their heavy machinery to help clear the debris. Others are carrying mud from homes, bucket by bucket.
Everybody in the farming community is happy to come and help with the agricultural equipment. There are people who will drive 100 kilometers to get here, just to help. It's all farmers here.
Aber alles Landwirtschaft.
When you live here, like I do, of course you want to help. This is the bakery I always go to for my bread and my rolls. I was here on Sunday, Wednesday, the day of the floods.
It's impossible to know how long it's going to take residents of Schult and other badly affected areas to return to some sense of normality. But it's already very clear that reconstruction is a mammoth task, likely to cost several billion euros.
Hard to imagine the panic of people stuck in traffic when the road suddenly filled up with water. Reinforcements have now come from all over Germany because not only were residents completely taken by surprise by the floods, they also completely overwhelmed government services.
We hope that they made it out of their cars, but we are not sure. And we can't guarantee that there are perhaps people in the cars.
We have clothes, shoes for men, women, and children, everything they need. It's great to see how much support is coming in.
I have nothing left, no home, no furniture or clothes. It's so hard, but I say to myself, at least I saved my child. As a mother, that's the most important.
It's about solidarity, supporting people to show they aren't alone with this devastation. When they see all these young people coming to help them during their summer holidays, well, it's just amazing and heartwarming.
German Chancellor Angela Merkel says that she's been shocked by the devastation left by flooding in parts of Western Germany, calling the destruction surreal and terrifying. And the crisis in Europe is only getting worse. More heavy rain has hit parts of eastern Germany, Austria and the Czech Republic. At least 183 people are now confirmed to have died, but that number is expected to rise as the water recedes. Well, Merkel has visited the worst-hit village of Schuld, where about 12,000 residents were affected. She promised swift financial aid and said the country must get better and faster at tackling climate change. The Netherlands, meanwhile, remains on high alert, and the army has been brought in to reinforce dikes and carry out emergency repairs. And while the rain has stopped in Belgium, a huge cleanup is underway as the search for survivors continues. There will be a national day of mourning on Tuesday. We begin our coverage in Germany, and Adam Rainey reports from the village of Schuld.
Destruction on a scale hardly imaginable. People in Schuld, Germany are clearing out what the floodwaters left behind. At a local guest house and brewery, they're taking stock and saving whatever they can.
Mit Tischen, die Tische gehören nicht dazu. Diese Tische gehörten rein. Das Wasser stand bis dort oben.
Bar manager Michael Kreutz shows us how high the water rose here. Saturday was meant to be the brewery's grand opening after a 4-month renovation. Now he says he'll be lucky if they open within a year.
Die Küche alleine muss ja neu, waren etwa 300.000, dann nochmal die Inneneinrichtung.
Everything in the cellar was destroyed. The heating system, everything technical, and the cooling system. We're talking at least €750,000 to replace it all.
With recovery and cleanup efforts fully underway, Chancellor Merkel came to this region on Sunday promising to give these people what they need, and she was clearly touched by what she saw.
Ahrweiler does not look anything like the popular tourist town known for its vineyards. Instead of finally reopening their restaurants and shops after a month of lockdown, residents are clearing tons of debris, some washed up from kilometers away, according to residents. Local priest Heiko Markertsen tries to offer mental support, listening to relatives who lost their loved ones, like a man in his church who witnessed his parents being swept away.
Told me the image of the woman being swept away, waving her hand, crying for help, you know. I have to.
And they didn't
yeah, they didn't make it. And I'm not sure if they were found.
Like most people living along the small river Ahr, residents never expected to be hit by a 10-meter wave of floodwater. Some ran for safety to the local graveyard.
He stood on the floor of the cross the whole night for 4, 5 hours, 6 hours and hold the cross. He's holding with his arms all his powers, and he survived. It's one of the many miracles in our town at the moment.
Together with her neighbor, Marga Grafweg celebrated their survival. They were stuck on the top floor while downstairs everything filled up with water. She thought she was going to die.
Yesterday, with my neighbor, we sat in front of the house and I got 2 glasses. We opened a bottle of wine and said cheers to each other, to the new year.
Another woman found her cat 5 days after she had left it behind in her flooded house.
6 Tage. Ja, geht ihm gut, glaube ich. Ist schon nur erschreckt. Ja.
Komm, lass fahren.
What is striking in the wine city of Ahrweiler is the optimism of survivors who have lost everything but are simply happy to be alive. By keeping themselves busy with the largest cleanup the city has ever seen, they don't need to think about everything they lost. But community leaders say that moment will eventually come. It was rush hour when the water quickly inundated highway number 265 near Erfstadt, catching unexpected drivers and passengers by surprise. Soldiers and rescue workers tried to reach trapped cars, finding out if everyone made it out in time.
We hope that they made it out of their cars, but we are not sure. And we can't guarantee that there are perhaps people in the cars. We could not check all cars. And if you see the quality of the water, also the check with divers is of no use.
Looking At how challenging it is to free this one highway, it becomes clear that recovery will take time. It's hard to imagine the panic of people stuck in traffic when the road suddenly filled up with water. Reinforcements have now come from all over Germany because not only were residents completely taken by surprise by the floods, they also completely overwhelmed government services.
Moving on now, and emergency workers in Germany and Belgium are still searching for hundreds of people missing after heavy flooding. More than 150 have now been confirmed dead. That figure is expected to increase. Rescue efforts are being hampered by collapsed roads and damaged communication lines. Step Vassen reports now from the German town of Sinzig, where cleanup efforts have begun.
They were trapped in their rooms on the first floor when the water rose up to 4 meters in no time. At least 12 residents of this home for disabled people died before they could be moved to safety. Across the street, Gabriela Wald watched the neighborhood swiftly turn into a swirling river and feared the worst.
Die haben es in der unteren Etage nicht geschafft. Man konnte sie nicht retten.
The people on the lower floors have not made it out. I don't know exactly what happened, but the next morning those who survived were evacuated from their balconies. It's absolutely horrible.
Living in this region his whole life, Herman Engel still can't comprehend what he saw when the water came.
Schreck, Panik. No panic.
I wasn't just shocked, I panicked. I quickly took out the car, as well as my dog and the 2 cats belonging to my daughter that we were taking care of. This sort of destruction I've never seen before. Flooding, yes, but not tree branches floating away.
He was lucky enough to be moved to safety and to find his house still standing upon return. Others saw their homes washed away by water or destroyed by landslides. Many remain missing. Nobody expected that a few days of torrential rain could have such a widespread catastrophic impact. Confronted with the sheer power of water, people here are wondering what happened and where all this water came from, raising questions about the effects of climate change and if what was called this once-in-a-century flood would now happen more frequently.
People are saying that this might happen, like for now, every 5-10 years or something like that. So I'm not sure. I mean, like, we try to learn from this.
Together with relatives and friends, Louisa Huyeng is trying to clean up the mess at her family house, not knowing where to start. They tried to return on Thursday, but had to leave once again.
The water was still here. We tried to get in the house and get everything up on the highest point in the house. So, and then we just grabbed also some stuff that we could see that we knew, okay, this is important, and then we just left.
The extent of the damage won't be known for days or perhaps weeks, but the memories and trauma of this twist of nature will likely remain with the people here for much longer.
And a short time ago, Step sent us this update from Bonn in Germany.
For the first time in days, the sun came out just a tiny bit, but evacuations are still ongoing. In the middle of the night, hundreds of people, up to 700, have been evacuated because a dam burst near Kreisberg, that's near Cologne. And the reason for that was that the waters in the Netherlands on the other side of the border were also so high that they closed the floodgates there. So the water came back to Germany and really led to some serious problems at the dam. So the German authorities had to call to the Netherlands. This is a border region, so all